Well, hello there everyone. Mario and Luigi Brothership is the most recent entry from the Dynamic Duo's Reaction Command Heavy RPG series, and I enjoyed it quite a bit and I'm glad it exists. Overall, I had a good time playing this game, and while it does have some ups and downs, it's a game that I'm glad exists and I'm glad I played. But today, we're here to rank the game's bosses from worst to best, and surprisingly, this is the first Mario and Luigi game to lack a Wiggler boss in any way, shape, or form, so it's an automatic 0 out of 10. But in all seriousness, there are some amazing boss fights in this game, and there are some absolute trash fires as well. So let's get started with said trash fire. Number 18, Gloam Pipe Gunk. I'm not too fond of the basic Pipe Gunk fight in this game, so its enhanced version won't be doing any better. I guess you could count this as the super boss of the game, but it's not fun, and, well, yeah, that's about it. I mean, I guess it's kind of interesting. Pipe Gunk is a boss capable of swapping between two different forms depending on the arena, as well as a regular default form, but otherwise he can swap to an ice form that's actually pretty cool, pun not intended, and a fire form that's the reason this is the worst boss in the game. And the Gloam variant just kicks it up to a notch or 7, making some of its attacks come out so fast you need to dodge before they even start. But hey, that's not all, because the original fight had a recurring gimmick where you'd play tug of war against Shun in order to control the remote and alter the temperature of the room. But Shun isn't here for the rematch, so who do we get for the assistant? Original the character Do Not Steal. You know damn well, if MatPat was still around and this game came out 10 years ago, there'd be a game theory about Secret 4th Extension Corps member? Or something like that. But yeah, take a boss I already don't like, and making him harder is a recipe for disaster, and this random shadow clone thing isn't doing it any favors. Number 17, The Great Conductor. What a weird boss fight. It acts like a sort of puzzle boss that's also a tutorial on bros attacks, and a game of can you spot the tiny difference, and hope the shuffling doesn't turn into bullshit because the health bars don't shuffle themselves. I don't like this fight at all. It feels like it would have worked alright as a tutorial boss or something super early in the game, but the game doesn't have you fight this boss in the early game, you fight him during the game's final act, so what's the point here? It doesn't even make any use of the ultimate bros attacks either because you haven't unlocked them yet. The fight is just plain annoying and feels weirdly out of place after the rematch with Bowser was such an intense fight. Number 16, Pipe Gunk. The third Lighthouse Guardian is, in my opinion at least, the worst of the bunch. His attack timings always just felt off to me, and the same issues I have with his Gloam battle against the fire and ice forms apply here, where the ice form is actually pretty good, but the fire form is horrendous, and you spend barely any time fighting its neutral form, so there's honestly not much engagement to be found in the boss itself. In fact, the optimal strategy here is, once you get into his elemental forms, to just keep using Boo Biscuits to be immune to his damage throughout the whole attack combos he does, then swap to the arena that stuns him, rinse and repeat 3 times. Though I will give some credit, while it isn't a straight up fight, I do appreciate that Shun actually does play a role in this boss battle, and you do have your little clashes with him. It gives it that little bit of charm that's enough to boost this boss above the bottom 2 and get him out of the bad tier. Thankfully, after this boss, all the remaining fights are at the very least decent. Number 15, Garumbla. The first boss of the game takes a surprising amount of time to reach. A big issue with Brothership is its first 4 hours really could have been condensed down to 45 minutes, and that would have helped the game's pacing tremendously. I know this game is far longer than other Mario and Luigi games, but hoo boy does it have a slow start. Thankfully, the game picks up significantly once you get here. Mechanically, this boss works well. He'll alternate between guarding his head and his body to encourage you to use the appropriate attack types, and he has a decent variety of attacks with his punch combos, falling blocks, and shockwaves. So why is this boss so low? Well, that's honestly because you're so limited at this point in this game. All you have is jumping and hammers. Without any bros attacks, your options are extremely limited, which is pretty disappointing. I honestly think if you got the shells a bit before this fight, it would have improved things drastically. Garumbla does have a good design, but it's unfortunately held back by the sheer lack of abilities you have to rely on this early. If only there was a version of this fight with higher stats that let you truly unleash everything on him. Oh well. Number 14, Gloam Sharpcask. Sharpcask is an awesome boss fight, but while Gloam Sharpcask has all the same cool mechanics, he suffers from being the hardest boss in the entire game because his damage output is absurd, his defenses are high, especially with the spike shield he can put up, and my real issue is base Sharpcask was already a fast boss requiring tight timing. While this fight is just ridiculous with how fast the attacks come out, you have to have the timings basically memorized. with the worst of the bunch being his crush attack, where he delays it for a few seconds before instantly whipping out an attack that likely one-shots you like it's Elden Ring or something. The insane difficulty combined with the sped up animations that look kinda sloppy bring down the fight so low for me, but it still does use a fun template for one of my favorite bosses, so there is at least some fun to be had if nothing else. Number 13, Mega Snapter. Surprisingly, this is one of the only bosses in the game that's an enhanced version of a regular enemy. The Mega Snapter is your first airborne enemy, meaning anti-flying will work well, but grounded attacks like hammer and green shells won't be able to hurt her at all, if she's not stunned and on the ground at least. The Mega Snapter is far from a bad boss, and with access to new bros attacks like Thundercloud and Yoshi Egg, it can be enjoyable. I just sort of wish we had more of these mini-boss type fights throughout the game, because this battle just feels a little odd being basically a larger than average enemy that has one new attack, but at least the Luigi logic is kinda neat, and again, it's not a bad fight. Number 12, the Bros. The third major arc of the game is a bit of a barren land in terms of boss fights, because after Sharpcask, the next major boss isn't for another 10 to 15 hours when you reach Pipe Gunk. However, there is a unique mini-boss that I think is worth counting in the middle of the arc, if only because it helps with the game's pacing a little bit. The Bros are a variant of the enemy bro types, with the Hammer Bro acting as the leader, while the Fire and Ice are the status effect supporters and also elemental attackers. But it's cool because these bosses can coordinate their attacks, pinching you between two bro enemies, and even have their own unique bros attack where they can perform with all three of them present in the fight. If you don't want to count this as a boss fight, that's fine, but I enjoy the battle enough for what it is and found it to be a good deal of fun, so I'm giving it a spot in here. Number 11, Reclusa. This is by far the least traditional boss fight in the game, with there being no real RPG involvement whatsoever. Instead, it's going to be Reclusa flying off towards the Solid Tree, while the best boss theme in the whole game plays. Seriously, why was this song not used for Zocket or Bowser? I'll be getting into that rant later. Throughout the fight, you chase Psycho Tenna down while avoiding his evil blooms, countering his fire and ice magic with your own fire and ice, before stopping to charge attack him and stun him and absolutely tear into him. This fight feels very arcadey, but I kinda love it. It's got a simple fun to it and fits the chaos of sorts and this sort of boss fight you'd see in Dream Team, where they were more about being fun times than traditional RPG bosses. Now, some of you may wonder why I'm counting Reclusa and Weeping Reclusa separately. Well, that's just because of other Mario and Luigi boss rankings separating fights like Bowletta or Younger Princess Shrew from their final boss counterparts, so I figured it was only fair I did the same here, and the game does give you experience after this boss fight, which is not done with the other phases. Number 10, Goblik. The first Lighthouse Guardian is also the game's wake-up call that, oh, this game's actually kinda hard, with a lot of his attacks requiring precise timing and most of them having a mix-up that can be thrown in. It also benefits from being such an early boss, so while it has some simpler moves to deal with than other bosses, they act as good learning experiences and the first Luigi logic that I'd say really gets things a bit crazy. The boss has benefited from having a second phase where he introduces new attacks at half HP, as well as covering his giant fan, so you have to expose it with one of his attacks again if you want to perform a second Luigi logic to get more stun damage in. But what helps this boss by far the most is that after 5+ hours you finally have bros attacks you can use in an opponent that's durable enough to justify using those bros attacks. Fun attacks, a bit of a challenge, and kinda goofy. It works well as your first major obstacle in Mario and Luigi Brothership. Number 9, 10. Wait a second. Anyways, you'd think with how prevalent the extension core is throughout the story that they'd have more boss fights, but surprisingly no, you only have a proper boss fight with 10 very early in the game, then one last fight against all 3 of them at the very end of the game. Thankfully, while 10 is a bit goofy, he knows how to put up a genuine fight, as he has his own unique skills that he can use, mainly focusing around electricity and mirrors, making a boss fight that requires you to pay a little bit more attention than some of the earlier battles. And he also has 2 Snapters as backup, which work pretty well with the story, as these birds are responsible for kidnapping the residents of the islands. For an early game boss, I'd say it's a really good one. There is a second phase to this boss fight, but it's less of a true battle and more of an introduction to this game's equivalent to badges, as he gives you the battle plugs that can be used in battle for helpful bonuses or insane buffs, and when you actually make use of this mechanic, it makes things really fun. Number 8, Glomgarumbla. What an Odd choice for the second to last required boss of the game. I'm not complaining, I like this boss quite a bit. He has the same cool moveset as before, but now with new attacks and alternate timings thrown in, and counters that he can use keeping the aggression up, and in turn the pacing much higher as well. But I like this fight the same way I like the rematch with the first boss of Metaphor Fantasio, where it takes a mechanically well-made tutorial boss design, spruces it up a little bit, and otherwise just gives you a playground with far more options to unleash everything on it. And use all your different build creativity now that you have battle plugs, tons of gear modifiers, and 9 of the 10 bros attacks in the game. A little odd that we rematched the first boss during the Infinite Tsukuyomi part of the game, which I know people hate, but seriously guys, it lasts like 40 minutes, calm down. But at the same time, it makes you do that fucking dance minigame multiple times, which is annoying, so who knows, maybe the hatred's justified. Honestly, this boss feels more like a palate cleanser after that last annoying minigame in Brothership is finished. Unless you chose to fight him first, in which case, my condolences. Number 7, Zocket. Zocket is a character that becomes infinitely better once you accept that he's autistic as shit. Either way, as the main villain, he does a good job being an intimidating presence, and his fortress has an amazing theme to go with it. The boss fight itself is also really cool, but there's one really big issue that's more of a nitpick, but for me it drags this fight down hard, and that's his boss theme. Zocket is built up throughout the game as the main antagonist and the fake-out final boss of the game, but it doesn't land because he's using generic fucking boss music. So I know he's not going to be the final battle. This was kind of a similar issue to the Dark Star Core and Dark Fawful and Bowser's Inside story, but the remakes did at least fix that, and it was kind of obvious the core at least wasn't going to be the final boss. But I have to ask, why? It's not like this game was lacking enough songs for an OST. The final boss has 4 unique boss themes, so why not have the first phase of that fight play here? High speed battle would have been great. It's an awesome song, and it would have sold the illusion that this was the final battle of the game whenever you fought him. And it's not like the previous games have had an issue with that. I mean, they gave fucking Popple his own battle theme in the first Mario and Luigi game. Anyways, fight-wise, it's an awesome battle. It's got a good array of attacks that are both a visual spectacle and fun to deal with. He's got 2 different forms he can swap between, and he can even possess a party member, forcing you to use the remaining bro to free them from the possession, leaving Zocket open for a big attack. And his 2 different forms, affecting whether he can use gloam attacks or not, is a good touch. I know it's a weird thing to be so petty about a boss theme, but I care about music, and while I don't think games have to have a unique song for every boss fight, it's nice when significant fights at least get their own themes, or at least a different boss theme than before, to signify they're on a different level. Either way, once you beat the boss, the grand plot twist occurs that Alice was Masquerade the whole time, and someone will appreciate that reference. Number 6, Bowser. You fight Bowser twice in this game, but his first and second fights are completely different ordeals. For this fight, he'll battle alongside his Koopa army and his main forces of Goombas, Koopas, Spinies, Bob-ombs, and Shy Guys. The surprising thing is that he actually coordinates with his soldiers extremely well, performing essentially bros attacks with them, and this also means that he has one of the largest arrays of attacks in the game, as they each still have their own attacks they can do. And it's just, well, it's interesting to see because instead of being haphazardly tossed in, he's essentially a commander, much like Elder Princess Shroob, where the available attacks differ depending on how many units are present, and when stunned, his minions can sacrifice themselves, really they just kind of run off screen afterwards, in order to get Bowser back on his feet. It's a genuinely tough battle, possibly the hardest required boss in the game. But there's a serious level of satisfaction to be had here, and this was the boss where I found myself constantly swapping around battle plugs and thinking 2 steps ahead to set up the best build I could for the fight. Bowser may not be associated with the final boss for once, but he's still a threat to be reckoned with, and as a minor thing, it's nice to see that the game actually remembers the events of past Mario and Luigi games, so Bowser now has some respect for Luigi, and Starlo and Bowser are now friends, if a bit begrudgingly, just to name a few things. Number 5, Gloam Goblik. This one's pretty simple. Gloam Goblik is the first optional boss of the game, and he's far stronger than anything up to this point when you first get the chance to fight him. But that's what makes him so great. He's the big challenge waiting for you, and you can take him on when you think you're ready, because, due to reaction commands, you can take this boss on at level 1 if you're really that crazy. I'm not sure how you'd get here at level 1, but I mean, you could. It's gonna be a matter of skill. Otherwise, it's really just the great template of Goblik, now improved even more with your larger arsenal of abilities and battle plugs. Everything about it just feels right, and it's fun. There's not much else to say. If you liked Goblik, you'll like Glum Goblik. Number 4, Sharpcask. Out of all the Lighthouse bosses, Sharpcask is my favorite, and the first truly awesome boss of the game that feels like, yeah, we're really doing this moment, sort of thing. The design is cool, the attacks are quick, but not overly crazy. The fight is good, and overall, it just pushes all the right buttons you'd want from an early Mario and Luigi boss. It's the point of the game where things get a little bit harder, but not oppressive, and it feels like you're finally getting into the big leagues. The Luigi logic being a matter of more weight before turning into absolute chaos is also pretty funny, and I like how his enraged mode acts as a pinch phase instead of over half of the boss fight. It makes the deadly attack still a threat, but not oppressive or irritating. As far as the obligatory monster bosses go, this one is far and away my favorite of the bunch, and would probably be the one I show to other people if I wanted to get them interested in the game. But yes, that does sadly mean that this is the first Mario and Luigi game to lack a Wiggler boss in any way, shape, or form. Rip a real one. Number 3, Weeping Reclusa. The final battle of the game is an absolute event, but it's one I quite like. In terms of sheer spectacle, it's unrivaled by any other fight in the game. Well, one of them does come fairly close though. Even without the regular Reclusa chase, this is still an extremely long 4-phase battle, so you need to lock in for the ordeal. The boss, being the size of Yggdrasil, is a bit too big for you to realistically fight from down on the ground, so instead you fight his guardian flowers in order to free Snoutlet so you can reach the head and get the real damage going. But it's not free, as not only will Reaping Reclusa still more than happily attack you, but the flowers can attack you and toss Snoutlet around like a ball, which can be a bit annoying when you've gotten one of the flowers almost destroyed and then he gets tossed off into another flower with close to full health, so try to keep your damage a little bit spread. Thankfully, when he's free, you're able to ride up the trunk of Weeping Reclusa, dodging his roots, thorns and magic spells of fire and ice, making for a very cinematic battle. The next phase pits you against the Weeping Core, which ditches the cinematic angle and goes for a far more technical fight. And I have to mention that this battle is long, because this was actually the point where I had to stop recording for a few hours. Why, you may ask? Well, I happened to get a new dog. Her name's Bailey. We actually adopted her from the local Humane Society. Not sponsored, but if you're looking to get a pet, then I'd honestly say check out your Humane Society. The pets there are usually much cheaper to adopt, you can do a trial period with them, and it gives the animals a good home. Anyways, back to the boss fight. The Weeping Core only actually has 2 attacks he'll perform, either shooting out spikes and rotating at varying speeds, requiring you to jump multiple times to avoid taking damage and hopefully not trip, or, far more excitingly, he'll start rolling at you at high speeds in an attempt to run you over. Keep alternating between brothers and countering with your hammer to render his attack worthless and clock in some good damage against him. But Ameno Sagiri has one last trick up his sleeve as he identifies each attack you do against him, meaning he'll start guarding against those attacks as the fight progresses, requiring you to make use of different bros attacks and regular attacks as well. This is a much better executed version of this idea than the Great Conductor boss fight was, and it makes what would be an otherwise pretty dull phase into a fun little test of everything you've learned and a warm-up for the action commands before the final phases. Because once the core dies, you're thrown right into a fight against Reclusa, and his opening attack tells you this fight is gonna be a doozy, as you need to throw everything in the kitchen sink at him. He has a mastery of both ice and fire, he can create clones of himself to fire out energy bolts, he can temporarily kill a bro, forcing the surviving member to fight off Reclusa for a short time, and it's all a little bit crazy. But of course you're not done, because when you get him to half health, the final boss turns into Pyrocynical, having all his attacks from before but much faster, while also having other crazy attacks that only provide a split second to react, and you have to go all out against this boss if you want to win, because while you may have a full arsenal, this is a boss I'd consider legitimately tough, to say nothing about him having multiple different types of spirit bombs he can unleash, or how he's shit-talking you throughout the entire final phase, which can actually overlap some of the screen if you're not careful. But something else I actually have to praise is the boss music. It's intense and psychotic, fitting of the final battle. Overall, it's a fantastic final boss, and I appreciate how he's an unrepentant shithead that needs to be put down with extreme prejudice. So why is this boss fight only number 3 when it's such a kick-ass final battle? Well, honestly, all of the top 3 bosses are some of the best in the series, so I'm going more off personality, and unfortunately, while he may have put Concordia in the infinite Tsukuyomi, he's no Madara Uchiha. Actually, he's barely better than Kaguya because at least he did have a little bit of build up in the early game, but you spend most of the game with Zocket as your big bad, and Reclusa is the obligatory evil entity of the game, just with the personality of an internet shithead. Fantastic fight though. Number 2, the Extension Core. Before the big battle with Zocket, we have our last face-off against the Extension Core, where the trio locks in to give you a fight with X being the quick and annoying jackass of the trio, Shun being the heavy hitter but also thinking ahead to start using different items in the fight, and Ten is somewhat the leader of the trio. There isn't really any way to burn down one because all of their health is connected together. As the fight goes on, they actually start making use of battle plugs in order to even the odds, using things like Iron Ball and an ability that makes mushrooms do damage to you instead of healing you. The fight is goofy, fun, a fair challenge, and creative because it's hard not to love the sorts of bosses where the enemies have the same sorts of abilities as you. I don't know, I always found those to be pretty creative and enjoyable. And then there's the final phase where they become invincible to your attacks, but after a short time they'll give off a massive explosion taking everyone down with them, so the answer to survive it is to use a Boo Biscuit as a way to pass turns while making you immune to damage while their kamikaze attack inevitably ends in failure. It's creative, it's a bit challenging, characters are memorable, and the fight is just plain fun, and it's always nice to see the comedic relief characters actually as competent fighters. Number 1, Gloam Bowser. Who could take victory other than the great king of the Koopas himself? Corrupted by the Gloam, this fight exists to fill the role of your powered up evil Bowser battle of the game, but instead of being the final boss, it's at roughly the 70% mark of the game. This boss is split into 3 separate phases, each more intense than the last, but phase 1 is basically just the previous fight of Bowser, now with a giant Gloam pit spreading out and having him add shockwaves to his butt slam attack. But you don't want to dawdle because this fight goes on for a while and his Gloam pit can spread out, making you take damage every turn while buffing up any minions that are in the fight. So once you get a chance to stun him, you want to take the airship in order to clock in some damage and also get the heck out of there. I like these little sky battle segments that are kind of like shmups because they're creative, fun, they feel more in line with some of the older Mario and Luigi games, throwing in like a random minigame sort of thing, and it's a good way to clock in a little bit of extra damage against this boss. After that's done, this takes you to a new part of the island, as he now gains a new attack such as trapping Mario and Luigi in 2 pipes before spinning around and sending out fireballs, and now the airship can be used as just a small addition that will actively participate in the battle, every turn firing cannonballs at you, so you can't just steal the ship right away or Bowser will stop you, so you just gotta kind of use the cannonballs against him to stun him. Interestingly enough though, this phase onwards he's counted as a flying enemy, but he lacked the anti-flying weakness in the phase 1 at Zocket's Fortress. After enough damage, you'll get a chance to go to the sky again, as the shmups will be even tougher this time as he now starts leading his fire and demanding more of the player's dodging capabilities, but if you can keep this going, you'll clock in well over 1,000 damage, which means you can actually skip phase 3 in its entirety if you're skilled enough, which is amazing and cool for speedrunning, but it's a bit unfortunate because phase 3 is genuinely awesome. In the final phase, the airship will be completely destroyed and the Gloam is going to start spreading constantly, turning this battle into a burn phase the second that portal comes out, combined with his new fire breath attacks and flying dashes as he starts using the moves from all his fights throughout the game. This fight is challenging, has great visuals, fun attacks, and is full of personality. The only complaint I have with this fight is the same I have with Zocket, where he's stuck with the standard boss theme of the game, which, while a good track, is unfortunate. It's not like the game was starved for unique boss themes, it's just that for some reason, every boss in this game had to share one of 2 boss themes, then you get to the end and Reclusa gets 4.5, and I'm not sure why. But it doesn't affect Bowser as much because we all knew he wasn't going to be the final boss. Either way, Bowser is back and he doesn't disappoint with a tough and satisfying battle, sure to put a smile on the face of anyone looking for an awesome Bowser fight, and it's in my opinion the best boss in Mario and Luigi Brothership. Mario and Luigi Brothership has a terribly slow start that drags on for entirely too long and definitely hurts the game, but once you make it to Goblik the game picks up a lot and it does benefit from being by far the longest Mario and Luigi game, and after beating the game twice, I'd say it's my 3rd favorite Mario & Luigi game, with Dream Team being 2nd place and Bowser's Inside Story at 1st. Ultimately, I had a good time. Either way, that's all I've got for this video. If you want to see more content of varying quality, consider liking and subscribing, and I'll see you all next time. Until then, take care.